I'm Alicia.
And I'm Maddie.
And welcome to the Fangirl Diaries, a podcast where we talk about our obsessions,
Reminisce about our teen icons,
and explore the books, movies, and shows that made us the incredibly nerdy 30-somethings that we now are. Okay, we're ready. This is a serious coffee break episode.
Have you got your tea or coffee ready, everyone?
Oh, I think meant me. I was like, you can see that I haven't. We don't want anything that could spill or create noise.
Disturb our notes.
Or disturb our notes. That's exactly right. This is, normally our coffee break episodes are like something minor that we sort of want to comment on.
Yeah.
Like we did, our response to the Wicked trailer.
Yeah.
We may end up talking about this for 9 hours.
No.
Let's see how we go. But this episode is also born out of the fact we know we need to do a prologue to some of our upcoming episodes.
Yeah, we want to introduce a topic that is definitely going to come up in multiple of our future episodes, and even has already come up in past episodes.
Yeah, because we did Twilight.
We did Twilight already. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be talking about the concept of vampires, particularly sexy vampires.
I was just going to say, and our love for them.
Yeah.
This is not an objective podcast episode. Let's theoretically talk about the notion of vampires.
Or the history of vampires.
We can do a bit of that.
Yeah.
Just to legitimize it a bit before we get into Edward Cullen. Oh, Damon. But we're gonna do both. But we have coming up our Buffy episode. And, of course, we're going to do the Vampire Diaries.
At some point. Probably True Blood.
True Blood, exactly. And it's like, before we do these episodes, each one of those episodes would require a sort of half-hour deep dive into why was this such a phenomenon?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is going to be because it's about vampires.
Everyone loves vampires.
Everyone loves vampires. So we thought we'd roll that all together into this coffee break episode.
Yeah.
And especially because, I can't tell whether it's over now, probably not, but there was definitely an extent to which this was an absolute boom phenomenon in the kind of early to mid 2000s and then the late 2000s.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, there was a real time when we were teenagers when vampires were the thing.
Really in.
Yeah, yeah, and people would talk about Vampire Lit, vampire shows, vampire this. Mm-hmm. It was a real... it really, really felt like a pop culture phenomenon that was at the forefront of everything we were consuming.
Yeah.
Across all the different sort of, books, films. We've talked about how emo is so... There's like a kind of crossover between emo and vampire stuff.
Yeah, just like the colour scheme and the blood and the,
the aesthetic.
The darkness, yeah.
The darkness, everything. Emo was sort of vampiric in a way. But we're now able to look back at this vampire era and ask, what the hell was this about? Why is it still compelling? Why do we still rewatch these shows? Why are we getting excited about doing our Buffy and Vampire Diaries episode? Because I watched these today. I'm just going to say it. I watched these today and they rule.
Oh, yeah.
They're so good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, good, it's a vampire thing. Hooray. So, something about this got to me from a very early stage. But we were trying to work out when we, as in you and I, encountered this whole vampire phenomenon to start with.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I couldn't quite put a pinpoint on exactly like one thing for me. I think by the time we got to Twilight, when we were 15, 16, the concept of like the sexy vampire was already out there in like pop culture. Like Buffy already existed, mm-hmm. Interview with the Vampire already existed. So like that concept wasn't new.
Yeah.
But probably Twilight was the one, at least for me, that like made it really, really mainstream.
Me too. And I think that for me is at the heart of that 2000s explosion.
Yeah.
Like definitely.
That started that.
It did. We had the 90s were completely dominated by, especially the second half of the 90s. I don't remember there being anything that was competing with Buffy in the vampire arena.
No, yeah.
It sort of had the exclusive, like, supernatural genre slot but like hot, sexy teen supernatural genre slot. I don't know. I feel like if there had been something comparable, we would have been watching it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also to do with, in terms of TV history, when we get to the mid-2000s, we have the explosion in different channels. There's just more available space for content. Whereas when we look back at something like Buffy, we're talking about a time when, I watched this on something like Channel 4 or BBC, like one of the 4 channels.
Yeah, it would have been bought from the American studio and then, shown on one of the mainstream channels.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think to myself, there was only this.
Yeah.
But that's just because there wasn't that much stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Vampire Diaries was being shown on, like, the CW. And this was a point where we were streaming it on computers.
Yeah.
Very, very different from the Buffy VHS tapes that I had. So we've got to acknowledge that the explosion in vampire stuff and vampire content was, I guess, generally an explosion in
content in general. Yeah, that's potentially true. Yeah,
like, if you were really weird and you were obsessed with, like, hedgehogs, there would have been more hedgehog material available to you in the 2000s than vampires.
Okay, but what makes vampires different from hedgehogs? What makes vampires more compelling than hedgehogs?
Okay. So a lot. Like, definitely a lot. Why specifically them? Oh my gosh. This has to be at the heart of the discussion. Why is it that something containing vampires is an absolute must-watch to me and you, and it turns out like tons of the population?
Yeah.
Like, what is it about this? We are talking about vampires in the already romanticized form. So we're talking about hot vampires.
Yeah.
But this has to have come from somewhere, because we were acknowledging, just when we were thinking about this a minute ago, that there is a definite unhot vampire era.
Yeah, so if you think about what vampires were, like, originally in, like, myth, they were, like, literally just undead creatures that crawled out of graves and, like, suck people's blood to keep themselves, they're more like zombies almost than anything else. They're not sexy.
No, they're the undead.
Yeah, and they're just, kind of demons that terrorize rural villages, and they're not sexy. So why is it that myth, out of all of the myths of like creepy demony type monsters, is really easy to then turn into something
really hot?
Yeah. And so there's definitely a time period between, like, myth version of vampire and, like, even, like, really early on in, like, the introduction of, like, visual media and, like, movies.
Early horror cinema.
Like, some of the earliest movies have, like, Count Dracula right from the beginning, and, like, silent movies.
Yeah.
There's something, like, visually exciting about that. And that version of the vampire is, like, kind of halfway in between. It's like...
That's the transition stage.
It's the transition. It's like, now vampires turn into not these, like, weird demon creatures out in the countryside. Somehow they merge to become, like, these creatures of power that had, like, money and status, and they owned a castle, and they had a cloak.
And they're a seducer.
Crucially. Yeah. And they may not have been, like, the most attractive humans yet.
No, we've not got to Robert Pattinson yet.
No. But they had something about this, like, they might have had stupid accents, but they had power and that seduction quality, and they were always, like, trying to be after a woman, which is, of course, true of other types of demons along the way, but it just had something about that, like, they had, like, a cool outfit, and, like, and then it started along that trend, I think, with Dracula and all of those kinds of versions of vampires.
Yeah, you could see it coming down the path.
Yeah.
But you're right to reference the sort of grim, genuine demon form of vampire, because do you remember in Twilight, particularly in the film, when Bella gets the book on the history of vampire lore, and the film shows various, it's like a sequence edit of the bits that she's reading in the book. The vampires look gross.
Yeah.
These, like, skeletal reptilian creatures.
Yeah.
And she's reading this book and thinking, hang on a minute, I'm not sure this is...
the same as Edward.
Yeah, it cuts between the creepy creatures in the book and Edward, and I'm like, clearly we've missed a transition phase.
Yeah.
Something is missing here. Yeah. But the vampire, everything surrounding vampire lore, like the fact they drink blood, the fact they're hunters, I think just really naturally maps onto the whole seduction framework.
Yeah.
And that whole power play. That they are the hunter, the more powerful creature. They're immortal.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
They're normally immortal. They're undead, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of ones that aren't.
I'm sure you can find
immortal.
exceptions at some point, but yes.
Yeah, they are out and about at night. They're not creatures of the daylight. They are these kind of elusive... You can see how some of these traits map onto the more broad, like, sexy bad boy trait that we otherwise like in things of people that aren't vampires.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you were talking before about, and I thought this was very cool, so I'm bringing it up, about Byron.
Oh, yeah.
People listening to this are going to be like, what? People are going to be like, what is Alicia talking about? Why are we talking about the poet Lord Byron? Well...
The original bad boy.
The original bad boy. Exactly. The original Byronic... We wouldn't have Byronic hero without Byron. And he was, like, elusive and sexy and dangerous and a bit... You know, he looks a little vampiric. He's got the jawline.
Yeah, the concept of being sexy in a kind of dangerous way was basically created by him. Like, didn't exist before that. Yeah. And he was also, like, essentially one of the first celebrities. And that kind of brought, you know, women were, like, desperate to be around him and to have that. And that kind of, that power of being, like, dark and elusive and mysterious, but also, like, desired is very vampiric. And I think, there's also, you know, one of the, like, original vampire plays was based on his life. So there is a direct connection between Byron and vampires.
I'm so upset that I didn't write about this as part of my degree and that you only told me about this today. I'm like, wait, there was
do another master's.
There was a Byron vampire play? Why do I not know about this? And also we would have fancied Byron so much.
Yes.
Like, I think we were spared that you and I didn't exist in that era.
I know.
Because he would have been so our vibe.
Yeah.
And, like, what did people do back then? There wasn't, like, you know, watching videos of them on YouTube or whatever. We'd have, like, stalked him around the streets.
Have, like one picture in, like, a newspaper with an article about his, like, misdeeds. You go, oh, wow, those misdeeds. They're so hot.
We would have followed all of his misdeeds.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. But, yeah, so it's clearly evolved from there. But we've started to trace what we would identify as, like, the first... actually sexy vampires to really around Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise vehicle.
Yeah.
And that, if we had to kind of put a date on it, starts the 90s and then the 2000s vampire craze.
Definitely. And I think we should acknowledge that those are based on books and that a lot of the kind of big hitters in this category, like True Blood and Vampire Diaries,
Twilight,
are based on books, and in particular, like, long-running series of books where women really just wanted to read about sexy vampires doing sexy things. And the fact that Interview with the Vampire was the first, like, made it more mainstream, but those books existed and were loved by a certain section of the female readership. And
they still are.
They still are. But that movie kind of made the image of a kind of a vampire that doesn't look like a vampire in a kind of cartoonish vampire way, but looks like a super sexy man.
Yes.
With, like, the dark features and, like, you know,
they start to look dashing.
Yes, brooding quality, and that definitely the visuals of that, I think, can come from that movie.
Well, let's separate 90s from the 2000s then, because you were saying Interview with the Vampire is around, you know, early 90s. It's like 94 or something.
It's released, yeah.
Buffy starts in 96, but they're clearly, and this is the TV show, I'm ignoring the film. Yeah. Sorry to people who are fans of the film. We will we might discuss that elsewhere. We're leaving that for now. We're talking about the David Boreanaz angel version of the vampire in Buffy. And I don't think he would have been cast. And casting David Boreanaz is like a statement of, this is where we're going with vampires. And he's right there in episode 1, season 1, he's in the pilot. And you couldn't really have cast someone more in a Brad Pitt mold.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like, okay, that's what we're looking for now. That's what we're going for. vampires are now, and they start to have like nice tailoring.
Yes.
Like Angel's wearing sort of, I don't know how, he has no money. Like,
No.
how's he doing this? How is he affording sort of, I think he's in velvet at some stage. He has a very expensive leather jacket that he immediately gives to Buffy. I'm like, how has he got these clothes?
But he's also very strongly like contrasted to the more demonic vampires.
Yes.
Like most of the vampires in Buffy are visually ugly, and they've got these like prosthetic faces and whatever, and he sometimes switches into that. But the point is, he's like, and this is probably a concept we should talk about, he's the like reformed vampire.
Let's go there. I love that point.
And
Yes.
he's like visually separated from them by looking like a really attractive human man that just happens to be a vampire against like the demonic vampires who all they can do is think about blood, whereas he has a soul and therefore cares about, you know, the actions that he takes. And that starts a trend, I think, which we obviously see in Edward Cullen. But it's visually different to the other types of demonic vampires.
That trend is essential.
Yeah.
And you're totally right. Buffy has to invent and separate a sort of sub-law of, okay, we have vampires that, well, Angel is a bit of an anomaly. He has a soul.
Yeah.
But he needs to be really carefully contrasted with exactly that, the baddies, the monsters.
yeah.
The ones who show up for 5 minutes, Buffy pulverizes them into the ground and then turns them to dust with a stake. Angel has to have a sophistication, and yes, he has a soul, but he also has, they give him these things like his, for want of a better word, lair is like architecturally really nice.
Yeah.
It's got like an awesome pad. Like Architectural Digest would be like, oh, like when you look at like Buffy's house or Willow's house, they're not as fun as Angel's underground. Like he's got cool bits of furniture and he collects like antique objects, which is where we start to get a correlation as well between vampires and sophistication that comes out in the Cullens.
Definitely in the Cullens.
That comes out. I mean, even in Vampire Diaries, the Salvatore mansion.
Yeah, they're
the best
they're
house by
living
miles.
more in like a past kind of decoratively. But yeah, you're right. But also what that reformed vampire kind of adds to our, you know, our archetype of our bad boy that we love anyway. He's tortured and he's like, you know, he's kind of mean and dark, but also has some saving grace that you could potentially save him. And so it adds that feeling of like, oh, he feels bad about his like nature, but like he has that evil nature. The evil nature is there, but he just like feels bad about it. And that's something that like you can latch onto and be like, oh, we can like help him and save him, but also we like the bad side. It's like that kind of that double-edged, that like slight element of danger, but also it's okay.
Yes, the potential to be good is there. You're totally right. The vampire is morally grey.
Yeah.
This is why they work so well.
And I think maybe that's where you end up with some, and I think this happens in both Buffy and definitely in Vampire Diaries and also in True Blood, is you have two vampires, one of whom is morally grey and is like tortured and worried about their like true nature, and then another one who is just evil, or at least at the beginning just seems to be evil.
Yep.
And goes with their vampire nature and is still really hot. But then can you eventually, over the course of like many seasons, save them?
You are so right. I hadn't thought about this parallel, but it's completely true. This is absent from Twilight because Twilight is just about Edward.
Just Edward, yeah.
Like, yes, the Cullens are there, but we're not really on a journey with Jasper.
Yeah.
But you're right, a show that's going to do 7 or 8 seasons can't just start with, I mean, they do. So we start with Angel and Buffy. He's got his soul. He's very sweet. He's very reformed, tortured about the people he's killed.
Yeah.
But that's not going to get you through 7 seasons.
No, and same with Stefan.
Same with Stefan.
Diaries. And what's his name in True Blood that I always forget his name because he's not even interesting.
Like, not Eric, the other one.
Yeah, like the main guy. Yeah. He's not interesting. It's like all these people that are reformed vampires, like clearly, like they can be hot, but they're not as hot as the truly evil vampires.
As the truly evil one. Who exactly, that's right, who are our female heroine in all of these things, whether it's Buffy or whether it's Elena, has to pull a goodness out of.
Yes.
It is so much more rewarding watching the evolution of Damon,
Yes.
or the evolution of Spike, than it is watching...
Or Eric in True Blood.
Or Eric, yeah, exactly, than, you know, the ones who are kind of a little bit tortured and good from the start.
Yeah,
and you think,
which
but he's a nice vampire.
It brings you in, because, I mean, Angel is hot. Like, we don't deny this.
Yeah, no, he is.
But, like, ultimately, we want the real bad guys.
Yes.
And we want to save those ones.
Yes, and it's the satisfaction of, is that going to happen through the season?
Yeah.
Or through multiple seasons. That's really where the... And that's right, and that's what the viewers end up going nuts for, and why these go on for so long, because people are like, that. Yeah. I want to watch more of that. Like 100%. They also start to... Each one of these has to have its own, like, visual framework for how vampires work.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this already with Buffy. I don't know how to define it. They have the weird messed up forehead.
Yeah,
they're like
strange angry face prosthetics.
Angry face eyebrow mutation. Yeah. That signifies in the show, if you've got this creepy face, you're a vampire.
Yeah.
But only when you're sort of in vampire mode.
Yes, when you're like angry and fighting and like trying to kill something.
Exactly. It seems to be a switch on, switch off rule.
Although the like really bad ones that like sit in a lair and discuss like their plans, they normally are stuck in that mode all the time.
They are, aren't they? They're like it all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've cast David Boreanaz, you are just not going to waste his natural face.
Yeah.
You're like, he can look like that all the time. But yeah, they kind of turn that on and off. And the surrounding lore comes with, you have to, as a show, define things like, okay, if you kill them, they're going to do this dust thing. They're going to turn to dust, and we're going to constantly stake them. And if
we talked about the sparkling in Twilight.
Well, so this is it. Each one of these has to set its own rules. Like in Buffy, if you're a vampire and you go outside, like you can't. You burn and die.
Yeah.
It's that distinct. They haven't had to invent a way to have Angel walking around in the light. He just doesn't. Whereas in Twilight, we have some rule bending.
Yeah.
We have to invent that the vampires sparkle. Yeah. Exactly. And I can't remember, how do they kill, what's his name at the start of the first book? Not Laurent, but the bad guy, who is also really hot. Like the main first guy, they have to do that thing where they like tear his head off and burn him. There's a different law
there is
around like how you kill them.
Yeah.
Each one has to invent, very important to all the plots, how you become a vampire. Like how a vampire is made or sired, and it's normally a whole blood-sucking thing. Yeah,
it's normally you bite them and then they also drink your blood. It's normally the way it goes.
Yeah, there's like an I bite, you bite reciprocal vibe. Yeah. But even so, on a minor level, each one of these deals with somebody as well who isn't a vampire becomes one at some point. And whether it's a film or a show, they all normally deal with that at some stage and have to create the logistics of it.
Yeah.
And then Vampire Diaries, they didn't go in for the face mutation thing that Buffy did, but they made it a little subtler. Do you remember if you're a vampire, you sort of get this vein, these veins under your eyes, and you turn a little bit. There is a visual aspect to it, but it's nowhere near as pronounced.
Yeah.
You don't quite have the fang look as pronounced, but it is that they get slight vein wrinkling, slight under eye baggage.
It's true.
It's kind of happening, but still. And yeah, when Buffy wraps up in the early 2000s, I wonder whether, I like to think this because I think Buffy is like a cultural icon, as in the whole show was just so important, that the world went, oh no, wait, we need vampires.
Well, they did make Angel.
Yes, they did. It just went on and on.
It just carried on.
It just went on and on, exactly. But whether they're just, I feel like Angel's fine, but after Buffy, it was really like, okay.
Yeah.
And then that's when pouring into the market in the mid-2000s, we get Underworld starts, Twilight.
Yeah.
And then from there, it just snowballs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Vampire Diaries would have been commissioned if your teenage girl was not obsessed with Twilight.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a direct... And, they take it a little bit more in a slightly more sexy, slightly more dark direction. But, it's a direct kind of, let's make this commercially viable kind of, and just carry on making stuff that people are going to watch.
Definitely. I mean, to the extent where Stefan looks like he's going as Edward Cullen for Halloween.
Yes, he does.
They have the same hairstyle. I was like, literally, who is this? You've put up on your casting wall a picture of Robert Pattinson and gone, we need one more of these.
Yeah.
We need another one of these. Who can we find?
So it was really interesting when Vampire Diaries, I think Vampire Diaries and True Blood were coming out roughly the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were almost in like competition. And I remember you were more into Vampire Diaries.
I was.
And I was more into True Blood at the time. Although I ended up watching a lot of Vampire Diaries anyway.
You can't miss it.
But True Blood almost went like, Twilight, that's like for children. Yeah. True Blood is like explicit from the first scene. It's like taking the inherently sexy tropes of vampires and just being like, all vampires are about is like explicit sex and like sucking blood out of necks during sex. Like, it's just intense, and it's taking all of that and just being like, let's go to the adult extreme version right away and like reject Twilight. So they're almost, the two of them, True Blood and Vampire Diaries, are both responses to Twilight in like different ways, but they're very much both coming from Twilight in that way.
I totally agree. I think Vampire Diaries was trying to give more vampire content to the Twilight reader of that age group. That we wanted to stay in a sort of high school setting. We wanted to have the human girl who falls in love with the vampire, and it's a nice vampire, and it doesn't move to that explicit place. Yeah. And then somebody had the brilliant idea that maybe adults like vampires too. Yeah.
And like people who said that Twilight was lame, maybe they can like like True Blood.
Exactly. And it turns out they were right. Yeah. They were right. But even around the Twilight time, like Twilight is a lame version of it. Like that sounds like we're criticizing it. You and I loved it beyond belief.
You can go listen to our whole episode on it. Oh, no, we love it.
We were there. You know, we were so into it, we can't even say. But at the same time, people were being offered Underworld, which similar thing to your point about True Blood. It's for adults. It's super violent. Yeah. It's nasty. It's gnarly. It's actually a brilliant film, or now films. But they took the whole vampire thing to a much more extreme place and made it way darker, so much more violent, more about the special effects. And if we were ranking these things in terms of like badassness, Underworld looks like an action film half the time. Yeah. Whereas Twilight's like people prancing around on on a field trip.
Yeah,
it's a completely different thing. Vampire Diaries as well. It's just like all in that lovely old town, and they all in the school, etc.
And like the hot girl in school also gets turned into a vampire, and like
Well, let's go there, because that, and this isn't necessarily a spoiler because it's obvious, but like that Buffy never goes there.
Yeah.
So it never becomes that over all the seasons of Buffy that Buffy becomes a vampire. I just think they wouldn't manage to equate the fact that she's a vampire slayer.
She had a particular role.
She did, yes. Bella and Elena don't really fight the vampires so much. No. Especially not Bella.
No.
But instead they follow that whole, well, what if we take this relatively naive human who otherwise is pretty crap and give them vampire powers at some point, which I guess is another fantasy, right? Like, how do you go from being the weakling, the sort of, or those two are both these kind of bookish, thoughtful characters who then, what if you make them run really fast?
Yeah.
And like jump really high and hunt down deer.
Oh, it's part of more of the like female heroine type trope that we've talked about in a previous coffee break. Like kind of that kind of vibe.
Yeah. Whereas Buffy has that from the pilot.
From the beginning, yeah.
She's more awesome than the vampires. Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah.
You almost want the reverse of like, how do you become the slayer? Yeah. Like that she's the ultimate level of badassness, whereas in your other vampire vehicles, the coolest people are the vampires, and it's like, how do we reach their level?
Yeah.
Or you have to, as both Twilight and Vampire Diaries certainly did, or you got to bring in a counterbalance. You got to bring in werewolves.
Yes, bringing in other kind of fantasy creatures is very common in all of these as well.
Yeah, actually, I mean, you're much more of a True Blood fan than me, but does it go there as well?
Oh, yeah. There's like fairies is a big topic of True Blood, and they're like not cute. They're like creepy fairies.
And like Buffy brings in werewolves too, like all of these. I feel like if you're a vampire show, somewhere in the sort of regulations of what you have to do is introduced.
You gotta branch out.
Yeah. Like, I think by the time we got to Vampire Diaries and there started to be even a whiff of some of that activity, I immediately went, oh, it's werewolves.
Yeah.
Oh, we got it. Of course.
Yeah.
It's obviously werewolves. Like, I can't believe we've gone this many episodes without them. Like, if this is a vampire vehicle, we must have some werewolves.
Indeed.
I don't think we get fairy creatures, but we certainly get that far.
I can't believe that we've spent this whole time, however, talking about vampires without talking about the genius that is What We Do in the Shadows, the film and TV show, which is brilliant, comedic, and it basically plays on that vampire werewolf thing right from the first film that they made. It's basically like a documentary about some people going to meet some vampires that like live in a house together, and it's a comedy, and it's so good. But like their immediate rivals are like the local werewolves down the road. it's just a classic trope that is just it's classic, and it's really good. If you haven't seen it, everyone should watch What We Do in the Shadows. The original movie and the TV show is great. We're in fact going to be planning our Halloween party this year to be What We Do in the Shadows themed, because that's how good it is.
That's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
That's the first time you've told me that, and now I'm thinking about my costume right away. What a great theme. What a great theme. But yeah, this whole thing was so formulaic that it is ripe for satire.
Yeah.
Because it almost got so stupid.
Yeah.
Or not so stupid, but you think, another vampire thing.
Yeah.
I can see, well, actually, I was going to say, Vampire Diaries peters out, but in the same way that I said eventually they had to wrap up Buffy, and you immediately went, no, but there's Angel. Yeah. Same thing, after Vampire Diaries, we get the originals. Like, they keep going. They realised that people would watch this.
Would want it, yeah.
On and on. And I keep watching it. I will put on the Vampire Diaries on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
There we go. I've said it. I'm that person when they put it on Netflix, and especially now a lot of these are being put back on streaming services. Like when they put Buffy on Disney Plus, I was like, thank you, God. Like, because otherwise I went through years of the VHS collection, which otherwise at that point in time took up like 5 shelves. Like if you collected the VHSs for Friends.
Yeah, you only got like a few episodes per tape.
Per videotape.
Yeah.
But this was the thing. People had like shelves and shelves of all the Friends videos. You had the same thing with Buffy, that it felt like the future had arrived when they released a DVD box set. And even that was like, my Buffy one is almost half a metre long.
Yeah, and I had the True Blood ones, and even those took up a bit of space, because they're long series.
But when these got put on streaming platforms, it was like, oh no, now I'm going to rewatch this again. But I have a question about these before we wrap this up. We're talking about vampires as a thing that engages women. But some of these tried to do things that made it a more, that appealed to men.
Yeah.
Underworld, guys love.
Yeah.
That is something where the various times I've watched that has been with various boyfriends for whom they have wanted to watch that film. And it is because of Kate Beckinsale. That is why.
Well, I was going to say, I think True Blood thought that it was going to be able to get a male audience by being more explicit and more violent. But I don't think it succeeded. As far as I'm aware, it's mostly women who watched True Blood.
That's my impression of it. That is my impression of it. In the same way that if people go back and listen to our episode on Supernatural,
yes,
you pointed out that you thought this was a show designed for guys that women got obsessed with.
Yes, I agree. I think it's very similar.
Yeah. and I love, and we'll talk about this next episode, but one of the great strengths of Buffy is that women love it, but every boyfriend I have forced to watch this has ended up going like, oh, no, I don't want to watch that stupid thing. And then been like, next one.
Yeah.
Next one. And I'm like, haha.
Yes.
It got you.
But that's just because it's an excellent show.
Yeah, it's also Sarah Michelle Gellar, but it is also an excellent show. They find Giles funny, it's a whole thing, but there are as many men that spent the 90s and 2000s watching Buffy as there are women, I think.
Yeah. All right, to wrap this up then, maybe one last question could be, where do you think the future of vampire media is going? I think for me, it potentially is. I'm in the era of the comedy vampire. I'm watching the whole of the What We Do in the Shadows TV show. Perhaps that's where it is at the moment, where we kind of had this peak of the sexy vampire, and it will probably come back again. You know, it will come in waves.
I'm sure it will. I don't think we've seen the last of it at all. I think vampires are still popular in that. Behind me is, let me reach for it, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is on my, I just can't ignore it any longer. The internet is telling me to read it. I've bought it in hardback because I just know that otherwise I'm going to take it on holiday and it'll get destroyed. But this is a current massive favourite. And so vampires are clearly still a big thing.
Yeah.
Certainly in the kind of, you know, NA, lit world, like new adult and stuff. And of course still in well, it was very heavily in the YA category as well, massively.
And there was a recent remake TV show version of Interview with the Vampire, so clearly people still think it's worth investing in that genre.
Yeah,
so,
100%. And when I about like where this otherwise goes, though, in that we were drawing comparisons between, like, emo had something vampiric about it. What I hope does not happen is that with the advent of technology and with everybody becoming a little bit more insular and a little bit more isolated, I don't want this concept of being vampiric and lurking in the shadows to actually migrate to, you know, people who are lurking online.
Oh, like techie vampires.
Yeah, or like I'm even thinking of the extension of this being like incel culture, like something awful, where this idea of being a sort of dark lurker actually becomes something that exists more sinister. Yeah, I don't want that to be the extension of where this whole vampire trajectory goes, because fundamentally the vampires we love, at least they were lurking in real shadows. They were like in alleyways, like at least lurk in alleyways, people. You know, make it real life. But I think the positive extension of it in the pop culture realm is that we are still it's still the dark, sexy bad boy. And like you said, the vampire figure is one who has the kind of tortured element, but also the savability, the like salvation potential. And that is in, oh my God, every character that's like a big hit in literature and film at the moment, for sure.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Fangirl Diaries. Follow us on Instagram at Fangirl Diaries Pod.
And do share us with any of your friends that you think might enjoy the podcast, and rate or review us on Spotify or Apple Music.